This is Johnny Dosco. Stay tuned for another Score Sheet podcast. Holy Kadelka!
Hello and welcome to another Score Sheet podcast. Today we have as our guest longtime Score Sheet player, longtime baseball writer, Geoff Young. How are you, Geoff?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing well today. So I know these days you're now writing for Baseball Prospectus, the BP.com website, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I've been there since late '09 and cranking out the goods.
You guys put out great articles over there. Baseball Prospectus started, 10 or 12 years ago, I guess, and you guys put out an annual and a couple other books and projections on the site. But the best part is probably all the authors you have writing constant columns on that site.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I learned so much reading a lot of the stuff that my colleagues are writing, and I have been for years. And so it's really a pleasure and an honor to be working alongside these guys. They're the best at what they do, and it's pretty awesome.
They do have a rather high level of talent flowing in and out of BP. I mean, some of those guys have gone on to work in major league front offices or go on for the big boys like MLB or ESPN. It's a pretty good proving ground for writers.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you guys, of course, you do projections for players.
Yep, we got the Pacotas, and those come out every year, and so yeah, we got that going.
Well, you're a big Padre fan. You got your start writing what you called the Duck Snort blog, didn't you?
Yeah, I started that in September of '97, and I just wrapped it up at the end of this last season. So I was doing that for about 14 years and cranked out a couple of books, or 3 books on that, and But now I'm focused pretty much on doing the stuff over at Baseball Prospectus and sending out little things on Twitter that I guess are either stupid or clever, depending on your perspective.
Yeah, well, you used to be a San Diego Padre writer. I mean, that's what Duck Snorts was, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're still a huge Padre fan, but now you have to write a little more about baseball in general?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm still going out to the Padre games, and I'm writing about them when I can. I'm kind of helping represent the West Coast in general, so I'm kind of covering stuff that's going on in the AL and the NL West. And actually, the thing I've got up there right now that just went yesterday was an article on the Padres and kind of looking back at their failure to sign Tim Raines back in the late '80s, and then as a free agent and sign Troy Gloss and Todd Helton's draft picks out of high school, and just kind of thinking about how things might have been different for the team if they had been able to sign any of those guys. So I'm still looking at the Padres, but I'm also looking at the competition like your Giants and the Dodgers and everybody else that's going on up there. I think I've written about the Angels this year, so I'm just trying to represent the West Coast a bit.
Well, I would think the Angels, they've made obviously the Pujols move and signing Wilson. They're a pretty interesting team to write about this winter, I would think.
Oh yeah, definitely. Anytime you get the best player arguably in baseball added to your ball club, and then to top that off by stealing Wilson away from your chief division competitor, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, I would think if you're the Angels, you're taking pitching away from Texas is pretty big. And then, well, let's see, the Padres, they made that big trade with Cincinnati about a month or so ago.
Yeah, that's right. They sent Matt Latos out to the Reds for 4 guys. They got Yonder Alonso, first baseman, who's going to, in all likelihood, be the starting first baseman this year. Right from the get-go, he replaces Anthony Rizzo and a cast of other people that were there last year. Catcher Yasmani Grandal, who's probably going to be at Double-A to start the year. Right-handed reliever Brad Boxberger, who could crack the bullpen staff coming out the gate. And, Edinson Volquez. I keep forgetting about him because he's not a prospect, but he's kind of an interesting project who, if he can stay healthy in that ballpark, he's one of those guys I'm not counting on a whole lot, but it could be a pleasant surprise.
Well, he had a pretty awesome, at least half year a couple years ago, though that is kind of fading into distant memory a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, and that's pre-surgery, and he's just had all kinds of control problems and just even logging innings and so forth. So I'm not expecting a whole lot from him, but at the same time he does still manage to strike guys out, and in that ballpark, if he can stay healthy and even make 25, 30 starts, which is admittedly asking a lot, who knows, he could be something.
Well, yeah, pitching in San Diego, you don't have to worry quite so much about your home run rate or what happens when you walk a guy, because you got that incredibly pitcher-friendly park for you.
Yeah, I mean, it made Kevin Correa look real good a few years ago, and it made Aaron Harang look real good last year. So, come on down to Petco and boost your future value.
Well, didn't the Dodgers give Harang they gave him a pretty decent contract based on his numbers in Petco last year.
Yeah, and the same thing happened to Correa before that. He got the 2-year deal from Pittsburgh. So, yeah, I mean, it's for a pitcher looking to reclaim some of their lost value, come down here and put an ERA up in the mid to high threes and then go somewhere else and promptly get back into the mid to high fours, but you're making money doing it. So
yeah, I think as score sheet owners, what we want to do out of this is you want to draft guys that are going to Petco, like Volquez or Boxberger maybe, and guys like Harang that are, well, the Dodgers, that's a pretty pitcher reasonable park.
He won't be too bad up there because of that park, and he's still in the NL West. If you were going back to the Central, it might be a different story where you've got Milwaukee and Cincinnati and Wrigley and so forth. That might be a little bit different, but yeah, he'll still get to pitch in the NL West a lot.
Yeah, I think, if you're looking for edges in things like score sheet, realizing what division your pitcher pitches in is a big thing. Getting to face the Giants and the Padres and the Dodgers and even the Rockies in Arizona to some extent, that really helps a pitcher out given the state of the offense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the Giants are kind of not so great. Alonso reminds me a little bit of that Giant guy last year, Brandon Belt, where they kind of, both Cincinnati and the Giants kind of screwed around with Alonso and Belt, made him try to learn a brand new position more or less right in the middle of a major league season, and then neither one of them really did all that well compared to expectations.
Yeah, well, I mean, the good thing about Alonso coming to San Diego is, of course, he's no longer blocked by Joey Votto, so that's a big help for his career for sure. And in fact, he's really not blocked by anybody out here, so he's got a pretty clear path to that job, and if he's what people say he is, he should be able to stick around for a while.
Yeah, I think he might be worth Latos all by himself because, I've obviously never been a major league hitter, but I think it's hard enough as a young hitter to adjust to the majors without also being told, oh, by the way, you're going to go learn a new position at the major league level.
That is a lot to ask of a guy, and I haven't seen Alonso play in person, but again, from everything I've heard about him, his swing is pretty well tailored to the ballpark here, so that where a guy who, like Ryan Ludwig, to use just one example, might be hurt a lot by Petco Park because of where he hits the balls. Alonso tends to be more of a line drive guy who puts the ball into the gaps and isn't necessarily dependent on a lot of home runs. So he should do okay here. Having the pressure of trying to play left field when, again, from what I've heard, his body type may not necessarily be suited to running around in the outfield a lot. Having that removed should help a lot too.
Yeah, well, that's, he might be a better score sheet player than rotisserie player because with the Padres lineup, he probably won't get a whole lot of RBI chances or score a lot of runs. As you said, he probably won't hit a lot of home runs. But in score sheet, if he hits 45 doubles, has a really good OPS, he could be a pretty valuable player, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, a case in point is a guy like Chase Headley here, who's when he hits 4 home runs, he kills you in roto, but in score sheet it's just fine because he's still got that 370 something on base percentage and a ton of doubles. So. I mean, I definitely think you'll have some pretty solid value there.
Yeah, no, I think that's one thing that people play both games. They should definitely have different draft lists because there's definitely, for some players, quite a bit of difference in their value between.
Well, yeah, but it's more like actual baseball.
Right, maybe that's the way you should put it. Yeah, if he's going to be a value to the Padres, then he'll probably be a value in score sheet. But if you're drafting your roto team and you need home runs, playing in Petco isn't going to help much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see. I really thought that San Diego did great in that trade. I've never been a huge Matt Latos fan. I think he's good, but they could get 2 or 3 major league regulars out of that deal for years to come. That would be pretty valuable.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the catcher Grandal, and I think that was just sort of one of those moves where when you're getting it took a lot of us by surprise, but when you're getting that kind of an influx of talent across several different fronts, it's pretty hard to pass that up.
Right. Well, there have been a couple of those actual baseball trades this winter, not just money trades. I think, San Diego needed a first baseman and needed a young catcher. Cincinnati, Mesicaro was blocking Grandal and Votto was blocking Alonso. It's kind of like the Yankees and Seattle trade. That was really the Montero for Pineda trade. It was more baseball than money.
Yeah, that was a fun one. In fact, I'm working on something about that right now, and yeah, that was a heck of a lot of fun. It is neat to see those kinds of deals being made that aren't necessarily driven by finances and are really about plugging up holes. That Montero Pineda deal's, I mean, classic. I mean, you look at the Mariners, which, you know, they were the worst offense in the major leagues last year, and to bring in a guy like Montero, who, for all indications, is gonna hit no matter whether he stays behind the plate or moves elsewhere. It's awfully tough for them to lose a guy like Pineda for sure, but to see that exchange of two really talented young ball players that should help their new teams in areas where they needed help, that's pretty old school. That's cool to see.
Yeah. Well, I think the Yankees, you know, they're of course always in the let's win this year mode. So
Sure.
I think their rotation had a huge hole, and their lineup is so good. You can always use another hitter, but their lineup can afford to have Montero not be in it, and getting Pineda should just really be a boon for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be drafting him pretty high because he won't have to be the main guy. He'll be surrounded by a bunch of veterans who play well. I think he's going to, you know, if you're in a one-year league where you get to draft from scratch, I'd have to think he's moving up the draft list.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, that's good. So, and then we'll be seeing regular columns out of you at Baseball Prospectus, huh?
Yeah, I'll be out there weekly, and then we've got the annual coming out next month. Our big fun thing that we do every year. Not fun, but, well, it is fun, but it's just the big thing we do. So.
Well, it's a great book. I mean, it's got some humorous articles and some very informational articles. I certainly look forward to getting it every year.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great resource to have. You know, I've got them all the way back to the, I'm looking at them right now. What's the first one I got? 99 or something like that.
Yeah, they've been a dozen years.
It's going back a ways, and yeah, you know, they've pretty much got projections and sort of little paragraphs on each player that's going to be playing for every team, both major league and prospects that you might be looking at. And also, there's always a nice team essay for each team that kind of gives you a little bit of a feel for where the team was and where it's headed and so forth. So you can kind of get context of, you know, how are some of these guys going to fit in next year and or this year and so forth. So it's good reading up front, but it's also real valuable to have during the year. And you know, heck, I look at mine from years ago. I'm still going back and referring to those years later.
Yeah, no, it's a great book. Can't recommend it enough. Well, Geoff, it's been good talking to you, and I'm sure we'll do it again here in a couple months.
Great, my pleasure.
All right, thanks.